Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the Overlord livestream ended. We got some information on a few new skill fusion units that are coming alongside the collab itself. So, the collab is focusing on the Stern of Spirit category, which, if we go in game and filter by Stern of Spirit, uh, man, it's not really the super best thing in the world. Albus is fine. The new Shinsha is fine. Rain is, I would say, not that great at this point. Space Raphael is still a god. Yom is, he's fine on the Vengeance team. Water Raphael, if he's skill fused, is passable. And then Dino and Dagger are both ass. So they're adding they're adding a bunch of units to it, but these four old characters are getting skill fusions. So today we're just going to go over and talk about them and kind of I'll give my thoughts on what they do now and if that actually makes a big old difference. So, Space 2.0 Leon came out before Earth 2.0, before the first anniversary, and that was an AoE physical focused meta. His skill decreases all targets' physical resistance by 20% for 2 turns and their defense by 15% for 2 turns. This is now going up to 30% phys resistance and 20% defense, which for an old AoE character, I think that's fine. I mean, I did with my EX Xion Protector showcase for Valor Cup. We did use Leon, and he can hit okay numbers. And if you can get this working, if you can get both this skill and his personal alt buff alongside everything that Xion's doing, you can make him hit reasonable numbers. So I think if you need a passable Valor Cup AoE unit, then doing a skill fusion for Leon, not the worst idea in the world, especially since it's multiple turns and you can use it like going into turn 3, and that way you'd have room for another big time buff to help Leon do even more damage. But again, the skill fusion requires these units to be at level 100 fully duped out, which is still one of the worst things they've ever done, and I wish they would change. Light Leon, his skill was a 50% light buff, and that was it. And now it's a 50% light buff and lowers light resistance by 30%, which, I mean, is cool. Light Leon is not super heavily used. Like, you could have used him in the New Year's team as a substitute to the second anniversary Hinata, and I mean, he would have been okay. He's okay, I think, is what I'll give him. Not super great, but Leon by himself is quite old, and a 30% resistance down doesn't do that much, because as we've proven, the light resistance down and any resistance down, unless it's like 50 or something percent or higher, it really doesn't do that much. Like, we saw the Kazuma, right? Konosuba Kazuma, this 50% defense down skill, absolute terrible. Even with the 50% attack buff attached to it, it's actually not a great skill for 80 points. So the resistance down, I think, is meh. I don't think that's a super good skill, but his other skill was a single orb change, and I don't know what the hell they would have done to that except make it a double, which would have made it more expensive. I also don't know about that one, so they had to do something here. But I kind of wish they had done something else instead of light resistance down. Maybe alt resistance down by 30%. That would have been much more impactful. And I think that would have made him a much more viable unit than what this is giving him. But eh. If I were to give Leon a rating, like Space Leon, I'd give him like a 7 out of 10. I'd give Light Leon like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. Like, this does not, it's not going to help you do that much more damage. It'll do like another 15k or something like that. Maybe. It's not going to change the world, though. Light Hinata came out in the same meta as Light Leon, way back when in the early days of Slime, which was, if we take a look at it, let's see, summons. So we got Light 1.0, January 27th, February 3rd, February 13th of 2022. I want to point out 2022 is when these guys came out. crazy to think about. But this Light Hinata was a defensive unit. She is one of few orange converters. She's changing, one green and one blue to two oranges for 30 cost, but they didn't touch that skill. They touched her defense skill, which was originally 40% defense for everybody, and she gave herself an all element resistance buff for 20% for 3 turns. Now, at double the cost, it is now a 40% defense buff for 3 turns for everybody, and all light allies get the 20% element resistance also for 3 turns. So in a defensive meta, 40% defense for 3 turns is really good. She wouldn't really fit, I'd say, on the Vengeance team that well, but you could make something out of 40% extra defense if you really tried. The light resistance for all light allies, like, there are no light allies on a defense team. There's not. There's no light people on the Vengeance team except Yom. So, like, are you gonna put this Hinata with the free to play Yom? I guess you could in like a stage that you can't use EX units, but I don't know. I don't know how impactful this light allies element resistance will be. The defense for 3 turns now instead of being 1 turn is very impactful, so I'd give her like a good 6 or something, or a 5. I just don't know how useful this is going to be. And then Water 2.0 Hinata. So currently, she is one of 2 characters to seal crit resistance. Her and Fire Millum, and they came out long time ago. So 2 turn crit resistance seal, and then increases the alt damage by 5% up to a cap of 60. This skill was fine when Water 2.0 came out because you needed the crit resistance. And if you could sneak in a few stacks of the alt damage, I mean, that was cool. But realistically, you only use this once because it got very expensive after a while. So 25, 45, 65, like at that point, your orb changes are costing a lot of skills. We didn't need this added on. The skill fusion didn't touch the crit resistance, but instead, now it stacks at 15% each time for the same cost. So, now it only takes 4 stacks to do it, which is still fairly expensive, but it's much better than doing it at 5% a time. I don't know how often you're going to be using this Water Hinata in a damage-focused setting, but certainly an extra 15% here and there is pretty good, because Octagram Lumi stacks 20% up to 60. And if you get her maxed out, even if she's not skill fused, an extra 60% permanent alt damage does make a difference. And Hinata can do that while also being your quote-unquote water DPS, or single target DPS if you need her to be. And she can still work fine for a very old unit as a single target DPS, because she's got her attack buff, she's got her crit damage buff. Now she's going to be buffing 60%, well, 15 or 30%, depending on how often you use this. I'd say that's pretty good for a DPS unit that's, relatively old, but you can definitely find uses for her more than I'd say this Hinata and this Light Leon. So I think that Space Leon got a fairly good skill fusion. I think that Water Hinata got a pretty good skill fusion. I think that these two got kind of meh skill fusions. And that is just the sad reality of skill fusions in general, is that, one, if you're not level 100, you can't do any of them, so sorry. And 2, skill fusions are not created equal by any means. So some of them are really good, some of them are trash. And unfortunately, more often than not, they're kind of trash. Sometimes you get a good one, like Space Rimuru or Valentine's Light Shizu. Like, she is probably, hands down, the best skill fusion. And then after that would probably be like Octagram Lumi. And then everything else after that is a crapshoot and it's up for debate. But Light Shizu, I think, is the best skill fusion that has come out to date. So let me know what you guys think of these skill fusions. I know, everyone's always pissed off that they have to be level 100. Trust me, I'm not a fan of that either. Every single user survey, including the one going on right now, I have that as my, one of the biggest complaints. Get rid of that. Light Hinata, Light Leon, they're not good enough anymore to warrant needing 5 dupes of them, plus the initial copy, to get this stuff right here. Get rid of that. Don't do it. Don't do it anymore. But Let me know what you guys think of the actual individual skill fusions. What would you change for Leon and Hinata to make them more worthy? But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.